Welcome to USL Live and to the Season 23 preview show. I'm your host, Romulocks, and tonight's show is about breaking down the competition and looking ahead to the action we can expect to see in this 23rd season of the Unified Skirmish League. To help me do that and more, I am honored once again to welcome into the broadcast booth my co-host for this show. First up, we have Jordan, a.k.a. Mecca.
Howdy, y'all.
We have Josh, a.k.a. Yosh.
Hey.
And a special welcome, we have Splittah, a.k.a. Gorilla.
How's it going, guys?
For more information on Unified Skirmish League, including the newly posted schedule, rosters, or how you can be part of this historic league play, we ask that you please visit uslzone.com. Gentlemen, the time for Season 23 is upon us. Let's jump right in and start looking at each of these squads in order. The rosters that we have, they are sporting as of June 4th, 2024. I'm going to ask each of you to take a look at the strengths and weaknesses of each squad and ultimately assign each of them a power ranking, 1 through 6, so that we can take our best collective guess at who's going to take home the coveted Golden Goblet this season. Starting off with a squad breakdown, we're going to go number 1 to anything to win. The roster as of today is Shasta, a.k.a. 38 currently. Colossal, God, a.k.a. ESO, Iron, Jordan, R, Sav, Stoink, Tyson, Yosh, and Zeus. Let's kick it off, Mecca.
Yeah, my squad obviously so might be slightly biased, but I think I'm just going to start out with the starters. And it's going to be a little weird this season because Eric can only show up to the early matches. And we have a few other free agents in mind that can also only show up to certain matches at certain times. So this is just going to be like the generic starting lineup of, you know, if this is a game at 10:15 on a Sunday, it's going to be Shasta, Jeff, God, myself, Yosh, and Eric as Marines. And then I think we're going to see Iron and Saab as medic. Obviously, Iron and Saab being brothers, they're going to be a great duo. You lose a little bit of the killing with Saab because he is one of the most deadly players in the league as well. So moving him to medic does hurt a little bit, but he's also a very good medic. So you're supplanting that with Saab's great medic ranking. So I think that's probably going to be there. And then, you know, there's going to be some games that Eric can't show. So we'll maybe slide Tyson into med, Saab Marine, something like that. And then, you know, still a few free agents that we're hoping to get. We only have 11 right now, so hopefully we can get 1 or 2 more guys. As far as prediction goes, I'm just going to be bold. I know everybody loves when it's a circle jerk on these USL Live, so I'm just going to say anything to win goes 10-0, and we finish plus 600 on the season.
Yeah, this is my squad, obviously, and, you know, we had a lot of roster change, actually. I mean, from last season. You know, we moved in different people. You know, Gift left, Mecca came in. You know, we're kind of looking for a second medic right now, but that's just one of those things that, you know, I think everyone's kind of hurting around for meds too. As far as Marines go, you know, this is guys that, you know, I've played with for a long time, minus, I think Colossal. I used to play with him in the past, so that's a different thing that's going on. But I mean, we should do the same things that we've been doing for the past seasons, so should be first.
Splittah?
Yeah, I think that they're obviously the favorite. I agree with Mecca in terms of the lineup. The one question mark would be Nas. I think that Nas would probably join anything to win, which would probably even make them a bit more OP than they currently are. But overall, I would say that, yeah, I don't see them losing any games. If anything, they might just lose one for this upcoming season.
Yeah, I kind of feel the exact same. I thought that there was going to be a lot of roster shakeup initially, and then anything to win shows up, and you see the kind of this familiar lineup take shape, and it does look a lot like over 9,000. That's for sure. I want to point out, I didn't have Eric playing in my head as many games as I think Mecca is kind of leading us to believe it will be. So I had an interesting thing where I thought Sav might be playing Marine, and you end up playing like Tyson, aka Mercy, at that medic role, and I actually think he'd be very fine at that. He could be. I think he could be a really good player this season. But you're right. That starting 8 writes itself. you guys have a really solid starting 8. I kind of agree with everybody else's projections here that anything to win is the team to beat this season for sure. And I definitely can see and concur with Mecca said earlier. You could have a if it's 10 game total, 10-0 season. And I agree that 600 is a lot, but I think this squad is totally outfitted to do it. Let's move on to the second squad in our lineup here. So I think everybody agrees that's number one is anything to win. Next up is crap shooters. As of right now, the roster is Brillhart, Chica, England, Keystone, aka Hop, Oct, Pister, Pandy, Sabotage, Sinage, aka Metal, Universal Soldier 2K, and Wu Tang. What do we think, guys?
Yeah, so I might be a victim of inactivity because I've been at the beach house for 3 weeks, but I don't know if England's playing or not, so I didn't include him in this. Obviously, if he's active, he can slide right in there. He's going to be their better player. But what I have written down here is Brill. This is starters. Brill, Chica, Oct, Pister, Handy, Sabo, Sinage, and Uni. And I think you probably have Sinage and Chica medding. Oct might be Ripper, Demo, or Sniper, whatever he's going to do. You could see Sabo playing that a little bit. And then if England shows up, you might slide him in for Uni or something like that, or Pandy if he doesn't show. Because I think England could be their best Marine if he does show and if he is active. And then I think as far as free agents goes, I mean, I think Triz is still available. I don't know if he'd want to join Crap Shooters, but he's joined the Pister squad before. And then SK is out there. I know he left his previous squad, Nexus, so he's out there as well. And I think he'd be a good pickup for just Marine depth. And then I think Hop can slide in the start. They really have, 11 starters in my opinion, because I think Wu Tang, from what I saw before I went inactive, was getting very good. As far as in their chemistry and goes. But as far as prediction goes, it's a little hard to predict with this because I think they do beat Nexus and NYPD. I think they sweep them. But I don't know if they beat any of the three teams I have ranked above them. I wouldn't be completely shocked if they could beat maybe Pay Pigs on like a map if they got like Kali and KR. I don't think it will happen, but I just want to leave the possibility because we did see some weird stuff happen last season. There was a little bit of parity. But currently I do have them ranked 4, going 4 and 6, and getting a plus 81 overall.
So this squad is very, very sneaky good. I think that, props to Pister for going out there and putting a competitive roster together. That's always nice to see. I mean, obviously he comes from us. So, I'm pretty interested to see what he's going to be able to do this season. Coming from, being a soft left squad, him basically running the show, which is good to see. As far as where I think these guys are gonna rank, I mean, the only problem I have with this team is they look a little light on the medic department. Like I see kind of one med here, which is like Chica, and then after that, who's gonna end up being their second med. As far as Marines go, you have a lot of okay Marines here. England I've seen him in pub. He's unrusting. Hop has been in the game too. So it's been pretty nice seeing these guys be pretty active. I think that these guys end up being maybe even the third seed. I think they can upset a couple of the teams that we're going to talk about later just by activity alone.
Yeah, I honestly do think there's upset capability for crap shooters. I do think that I would place them at 4th position currently. It does suck that they lost Vax. I do think that they seemed a little bit better with Vax. With that being said, Pister as a leader, he's definitely learning a lot, and I did notice improvement over the past few weeks. There's games where he's competitive, and then there's games he isn't. As for the top player that I would put on that team, I would say definitely Sabotage. He's been probably the most effective player that I've seen on their squad consistently. And then alongside them, I would put Pandy, Pister, Oct, Brell, England potentially if he shows. With the medics being Chica and Sinich. But I do think again that they do have a chance to cause an upset if they play smart.
Yeah, I think very similar to everybody else in terms of the lineup. I definitely have Brill in. England has been playing pretty well. I think that I don't think he's completely unfaded or anything, but he's definitely a starter on this roster right now, as is Hop, I think. So I think those two guys are pretty immediate. Oct and Pister, I think, are in every game for them. And then I see Uni playing if he's available. I haven't seen him a lot this offseason, but you guys are saying Sinage more. I was seeing more Uni coming in, and I would like to see more Wu Tang. But I kind of think the second med is the interesting question, which Yosh raised earlier. I wonder if Brillhart ends up being like drafted into that position. I think Hop could play it, or Sinage. I think Mecca was mentioning Sinage as well. So you got like three guys kind of in the mix that could play that second medic role. I do think obviously Chica is the one, but you're looking for that too. And I completely agree with what what Splittah was saying just a second ago, which is that Sabotage has been fantastic this offseason. I think he's been one of the most dominant players in SBs that I've seen so far. He's easily the best player on this lineup right now. I don't know how much Pandy shows up for you, but Sabotage is filling that role right now for sure. Anyway, you kind of like to see them all coalesce around him. But I agree with what everybody is saying in terms of positioning as well. I don't mean to be a broken record on that, but I do see CS right now as the fourth position. Yosh, where did you have CS finishing?
I have him third.
Okay. So that you're the only one different on that. That's very interesting. And I agree with you guys with Mecca and Yosh on that probably one of the biggest battles for squads in this season is going to be the fight between pay pigs and crap shooters. That's going to be very interesting to watch those matches between those two. Let's move on to talk about knock your punk ass down, which I think was supposed to be NYPD, but comes down to KYPD. Roster is Doomsday Bruin, Eloise, which is Bax's current name. I'm sure that will change. Ghost Bomber, Infinite, Juve, Level question mark, aka Septicemia or Marvel, and why doesn't he go with Marvel permanently? MTR3, Raekwon, Ryan B, Suicidal Noob, That Dude, and Trax. What do you think, man?
Oh yeah, I'll start again. Again, this might be a little off just for my inactivity, but I have Eloise when he's unbanned, Enemy aka Suicidal Noob, GB, Level, MTR3, Raekwon, TD, and Trax. And I think you probably see MTR3 and TD Medic. I don't know who else would slide in to start. I don't think Juve or Infinite is reliable. I mean, Infinite has showed up a lot in the past, but I don't think you can rely on them. And then, I mean, Ryan B can always slide in to play LMG or whatever. And then my boy Doomsday, known him forever. I'm sure he can play if need be, if they let him know ahead of time. As far as ranking goes, I think they're going to be towards the bottom. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. I did have them going 1-9, minus 235. I think they split with Nexus and they get swept by everybody else. But I wouldn't be surprised if on a certain map, I'm not sure what off the top of my head because I don't know which maps are finalized, but they could keep it close with one of the 5 teams above them, just randomly, just if they play, very passive and Level does his go north every time, sit in a building type strat. I think you could see him or see them possibly cause not an upset, but be closer in the game than people expect. And then as far as free agents goes, I don't know if Astro's left them 12 times or what, but I see them picking up somebody like Astro and maybe Dark Bomber. If they, if we expand the rosters to 14, maybe they'll hop in there.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for these guys, we're looking at the 5th seed, I think, here. They're going to struggle. Bax being banned for, I think, 2 weeks is a pretty big blow for these guys. But, that's supposedly due to his own doing. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes type of deal. So that's, enough to say on that. These guys are going to struggle I mean, we played them last night on Crimson Valley, and the one good thing that I saw that they had is I don't know if Ripper is going to still be a thing, like the heavy Ripper with the armor and stuff like that. But Septicemia was actually pretty annoying with that class. They were doing what they would normally do, which is like set up ambushes and stuff like that. But this team's going to do what it always does: hang close for 15 minutes and then just fall apart at the later half.
Yeah, I would put them currently in fifth seed as well. They're definitely going to have some struggles, especially since Bax won't be there in the first 2 weeks. With that being said, I have a similar lineup to Mecca. Outside of, I wouldn't put Trax in yet, just because I feel like he still needs a little bit more practice, and I would rely on Juvie, which has definitely been playing pretty good from what I've seen. Otherwise, I do think that they're a clear fifth, though. I do put them above Nexus currently.
Mecca, where did you have it? Do you have NYPD as 5 or 6?
I had them 6. I have Nexus.
Okay.
5.
Okay, that's an interesting difference between us there as well. So yeah, I agree. I think Bax after the 2 week, I don't know, maybe I just announced that after his ban, will be coming back. Ghost Bomber, Septicemia, MTR3, Raekwon, Ryan B. That dude definitely is medic. Suicidal Noob has played some medic. I thought he's been pretty good at it. Definitely for their squad, I think he would definitely be a starter or could be at the medic role. I think there. But I do think that's probably your roster. I think it's interesting what Mecca raises in terms of Astro and Dark Bomber because I kind of wonder why those guys aren't here already. Yeah, I think both of those guys slot in very well with this team and kind of fill out the roster, and they get to kind of choose what pick your poison, so to speak, in terms of which direction you want to go. Septicemia, I agree with Yosh, has played very well in the offseason. Special classes or as anything else, I thought he's done really well. I'd like to see this group come together because they are doing pretty well in SBs in terms of just listening and moving together, and it makes a huge difference. Ghost Bomber being together with the squad when they attack is just, you can tell the difference when they're all reacting to whatever the leader is telling them to do in that moment. And I think it kind of comes down to that. I do, as well as Mecca, put them as my 6th squad. So let's move in and discuss the difference there with Nexus. That is our number 4 squad, or the 4th squad so far on the list. Roster currently is Bowen, Baza, District, DP, Flash, Fresh, Machine, Military Police, Romulocks, Sear Crisp, SNTR, and Spoils. Mecca, take us away again.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at this lineup, comparing it to NYPD, I think it's just better. I think they have better Marines. I think that NYPD at the top has a lot of talent for their respective squad, but I think, once you look at the entire starting lineup, which I have as Bowen, Baza, District, DP, Flash, Fresh, Rom, and Spoils, because I forgot who Machine was. If you could remind me who that is, maybe I'll slide him in. But
it's actually Machine.
yeah. It's just Machine.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. But yeah, I don't know how Rusty is. Then maybe he will get some playtime too. Then, I see the meds as probably Rom and Flash, or Rom and Fresh. I think Fresh played Marine decently at the end of last season, so I think I would probably stick him as Marine. But again, I haven't really seen a lot of SBs. But I think that once District unrusts, and I think another reason I had him as 5 is I think Fosto probably ends up joining these guys. If he doesn't join Warhawks, he probably joins Nexus. And I think Fosto coming in to lead over Bowen, not that Bowen's a bad leader, but I think Fosto gives them that edge over NYPD. And if Fosto does join, I think they could maybe even sweep NYPD and maybe steal one from Pay Pigs or Corrupt Shooters or something like that. So I think that is a possibility. And then I also have the possibility of Miz joining. I talked to Ernie, and he said Miz did want to play. So if he doesn't join Warhawks, maybe he joins Nexus. I know he's friends with a lot of these guys. So that's why I kind of have them at number 5. And I have them, let me see what I have. I have them negative 216. So pretty close to NYPD, but just slightly better in the kill death.
Yeah, this team has gotten a lot better since the first time we saw it in the the early preseason. Like Mecca alluded to, he picked up some good players like District. District is a really good player if he's actually wanting to play this season. You got the classic combo of Flash and Fresh. MP's on this roster too. You got Romulocks here, and you got a guy that I'm personally looking forward to seeing is SNTR. I think he's actually pretty good at pub, sneaky good medic. But as far as most other squads have a problem in meds, this team has kind of overloaded with meds. So that'll be interesting to see how Bowen kind of paces that out and who starts from week to week. But there's a lot of people that I wanted to see started last season that is, starting this season. MP, Romulocks, I want to see those guys start. Spoils, DP, like all those guys, played a background role last season. They're really going to be able to come into their own this season. And I think I
Yeah, I've
have
been
this team fifth.
Fifth. Okay.
sorry. Yeah, I've been seeing MP Ripper, which was really effective. I do think that they're sixth place. The reason why I would say that because of activity. I mean, it could change if they're more active. I definitely see them. Yeah, definitely going to fifth position. But currently, because of the lack of activity, I just don't see how it's possible that they get to the fifth seed. With that being said, I have it as Bowen, Boza, District, Flash, Fresh, MP, and Spoils as the players that I'm expecting to start. And I do think that they definitely have a lot of room to grow. I've noticed a lot of improvement every time I've seen them play. So I'm kind of hoping that they get a little bit more active and make me change my mind.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say that I do have us at fifth. I think in a straight up right now, if you just look at the names, that I think Knock Your Punk Ass Down loses to Nexus. But at the same time, I think that Splittah is exactly right. The problem we have is inactivity. We have half our squads not logging in a lot right now. But they're there. We know they're there. But I see Bowen, District, DP, Flash, Fresh, MP, Spoils, and SNTR. I don't even know if I'll start on the squad. That's totally fine with me. I agree completely with what Yosh said, which was that SNTR is a sneaky good medic. I watched him a couple nights ago, and he just positions himself well. I mean, is he amazing? No, but is he consistent? He was in that SB that I watched. I think that could be a fantastic medic to have. That you kind of a thing you didn't know that you had on that roster. Military police is going to be a pretty big factor here. He's going to be required to play a lot. I agree with what Mecca said that Fresh is probably one of the best Marines on this lineup, and he probably does need to play Marine here. But District, absolutely. If he unfades, we've said it. I've said it many seasons in the past. If you go back and you look at my first comment on District, and they allowed us to add individual reviews on players, I said that he's a slayer. As long he charges in sometimes and he's a little over aggressive, and that'll put him in bad positions. But when he is on and when he has medic support, that man is a murderer. And so that's kind of I think we need to kind of hitch our wagons to him and move in there. And Bowen is the leader right now. And I agree with what Mecca said as well about Fausto or Miz. I mean, Fausto would be a big deal for this squad because he would bring a lot of leadership that we currently don't have necessarily in terms of experience, and it would allow Bowen to focus, more on gameplay, and you end up with a pretty solid 8 roster here. I think definitely somebody that with that roster, including Fausto, I agree with what Mecca said. You could start to compete with crap shooters and pay pigs. I think at that level. So I'm hopeful that that's the way it trends, and that Nexus. That we live up to some expectations. Let's move into the fifth squad, Pay Pigs. Roster currently is Danny, Dennis Reynolds, aka Manu, Fafo, aka Big Bird, G, aka Splittah, Havoc, K, Leak, Scarface, aka Torch, Spartacus, aka Dave, The Mountain, Typhoon, and Victim. What you think, Mecca?
Yeah, this is an interesting squad to me because I think they have too many starters, and I know that Split will probably talk about this when it's his turn up. I had a real problem trying to figure out who the 8 is going to be. Might come down to activity, might come down who wants the med. But this was just me taking a shot at it without seeing really any SBs. I said Dennis Reynolds, Splittah, Havoc as med. Dennis Reynolds and Havoc as med, I should say. Splittah, Kevin, Leak, Dave, SV, and Typhoon. I personally would never bench Danny, but I don't know how they feel about it, and I don't know who you would bench Danny for. Maybe Dave offers. I don't know. I think Danny is one of the better players in the squad, so I don't know what happens there. But they have the good problem, I would say, sometimes bad, in just having too many good players and good starters. Like Big Bird's going to want to play in lead. Torch deserves to play. I know Victim's been working on his Marine too, and he can always med as well. And then there's always some free agents. Again, I think Priz could fit very well into the system if they want another starting Marine. And I know in the offseason they played Astro a lot when I was on their squad. So I don't know if they just slide him in for like an activity, like grab a noob and train him up kind of player. So I could see one of those two people playing, and I'm sure Miz or somebody else is available too. But yeah, I think the most interesting thing about this squad is who meds and who starts, because I know Dave wanted to med as well.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
this squad's very interesting to me. Like Mecca is saying, you do have a lot of starters on this team, and it's gonna be really, really interesting to see who meds. Dave, like Mecca said, he wanted the med this season, but you have two good meds in Havoc and maybe Havoc is a Marine. He's not a bad Marine either. So, this is probably a little controversial, but this is going to end up being my second seed. And when we get down to Warhawks, I'll explain that. But these guys have been pretty active this offseason. They've been SPing a lot, at least from what I've seen. And this team goes as far as Big Bird takes them. You have Big Bird surrounded with a bunch of good players. And I know he's been in pub trying to unrust a little bit, which I hope he keeps doing, because they're going to need him to kind of step up and, not be, the couple games that I witnessed in, he would tend to have the most deaths. And it was a little rough, right? And you could tell there was some rust there and things like that. So hopefully he gets that under control and he's able to lead these guys effective, and they could end up being the second seed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would give us either second or third, depending on how Warhawks does. But with that being said, as for lineups, I don't even want to touch on that topic, to be honest.
Wow. Come on, Splittah. Come on, don't be fake here. This is USL Live.
I do not want to handle those problems. But I will say one thing, though. Danny, I think, would be a starter. Why? Because I think he proved himself last season. And I also think that he's a reliable player in pretty much any squad. As for our biggest competition, yeah, it definitely would be Warhawks. And currently, right now, we have more Mountain leading than Big Bird. We are trying to interchange people, but I would say for leadership right now, the thing that clicks the best from what I'm seeing is Manu being the leader of the squad in terms of leading during SBs. Obviously, that's still up for debate because we still have to kind of determine what people prefer. But with that being said, that would then mean that Manu would be medic, and the second medic would then obviously be either Havoc or Dave. I think that Dave is a player that's so dynamic that it would, even though he's a great medic, it would hurt us to have him med, just because of his supernatural ability to play pretty much any class. So obviously Dave wants the medic, and I don't want to, or anybody for that matter, wants to prevent him from that. But I think it's a game by game basis. There will be situations that I'm sure that it might be suited that Dave plays a different class.
Dave, hit me up. I got a bed spot open.
Splittah, you may not have to call your lineup, but you do have to put 2 or 3. Which one?
The guaranteed bets I would say right now that I'm aware of is definitely going to be Mountain, Dave.
No. I mean, is Pig second or third overall?
Oh, I would give us second. I mean, it is my squad.
Okay.
I feel like we have the edge, and I'll tell you why when we definitely get to the Warhawks.
Okay.
Which is coming up right now.
Gotcha. Okay, so
wait,
in terms
Rob,
of
1 second.
Yeah.
Let me butt in. I forgot to give my place. I have them at 3 currently.
I had you. I had you listed at third, so I thought you said that, but maybe
okay. I don't think I did, but yeah, third plus 215. I think they split with Warhawks, but Warhawks has a better KD at the end of the year.
Well, in terms of my view of pay pigs right now, I see Danny as a starter. I see Manu as an obvious medic. I think Big Bird kind of makes sense, but it kind of is a question of is he showing up and is he practicing in the week? Splittah is obviously in. Kevin is obviously in, I think, and Kevin has been awesome in the offseason too. So I think he's definitely earned his starting spot. Leak is a question mark of what kind of player do you have? I haven't seen him SB a lot, and is he faded? How is he in games? Torch is an interesting one because I don't see him making the starting lineup with the guys you got, and he's going to want to play. So that's a very interesting situation there.
Could I
Go ahead.
interject 1
Yeah.
second as well, just to say one thing? Like what we saw last season, especially like even for ZT, was that it's hard to have a consistent lineup. Like basically,
People are just not going to show up.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's hard to say who's going to start when in reality, the majority of times, not everybody's going to be here anyway.
Yeah.
Right? With that being said, it is for us going to be hard, but I expect the majority of times that we're basically going to play whoever's there.
It may not end up being a problem. It just seems like right now, if you have all these guys here, you can't play them all. But I mean, that's an abundance of a good problem, as Mecca said earlier. Spartacus, Dave, I see him playing for sure. The Mountain, and then Typhoon is the other one. Like I feel like Typhoon, the way he played, particularly the end of last season, he was on a roll, man. I would have that guy in the game. Victim is the only one I see in this roster who's like right now an obvious sit, maybe with Leak, depending on how he's playing, and maybe Big Bird if he's showing up at all. But I think your biggest question is Havoc. Is Havoc looks like he was one of the best medics in the game last season, but he is a dominant Marine. So, he had a kind of a disastrous beginning of season 21, has a fantastic season 22. I'm very interested to see where he goes with season 23, if he plays medic consistently or if he Marines. I don't think there's a wrong answer there. I think it's just choices. And I completely agree with what Splittah just said about Dave. Could he play medic? Yes. If you take him out of a role with a gun, you have handicapped him and your team. I see that very clearly because I think Mountain is your killer. And I think that the question, who's your 2 and 3? And Dave is easily a 2 and 3. And if you don't have him in there, then it becomes a real question of who is your 2 and 3. And Typhoon could definitely do that. Danny could definitely do that. But they could also, along with Mountain, all those guys had bad games last season. And it would be kind of like, I watch a lot of college basketball, and you see these games where everybody goes 0 for 10. And that is a disaster of a night for a squad. So I really think that Dave adds to that lineup by being a consistent killer, and maybe he's the spark that gets it started for the rest of these guys. So if there's nothing else on Pay Pigs, let's move on to Warhawks, the 6th squad in our roster list. The roster currently is Aerith, a.k.a. Staley, Blitzkrieg, Fairfax, Kaga, Ketis, Mosh, Rio, a.k.a. Legacy, Soul, Stavadine, Tactical, and The Gift. Mecca, what you got?
Yeah, so as far as starters go, this is just going to be based on what I think who's going to show, and obviously Kaga only shows sometimes, Soul really shows, and who knows about Blitz. So I'm going to say Aerith and Stavadine Medic, and then Fax, Kaga, Mosh, Rio, Tactical, TG. I think they could add another player. I know Bad Magic's still sitting there. He left to give them room until it went up, but maybe they grab him back. Again, Fausto, Miz. Another thing that we haven't mentioned anybody about yet is ER and CC are not even in free agents yet. I know CC said he would decide later. So those two people are out there too. They could join any of these squads, just kind of a sidebar. I forgot about them. As far as placement goes, I think they do end up getting second. I think they go 7 and 3, the same as Pay Pigs go, but I think they get a much better plus minus because I think they farm NYPD and Nexus better. I think they probably finish plus 420. So I see them finishing in the second position.
Yeah, so this is a team that's really, really good on paper. And they were really active at the very beginning of the offseason, and now they've been kind of picking it up a little bit now. But when it comes down to it, is that inactivity going to hurt them enough that they're not going to be able to take the second seed? That's the only real question I have with this team is how active are they going to be? How much do they care? Like, you got Blitz, he's probably never going to show up. Kaga's going to show 50-50. And then it's all going to show, right? Like, those are good players that you want to have starting, but are they going to show? The answer, we'll see. That's why I have them third.
I thought you had Yosh. I thought you had CS as third.
No, I had CS
as fourth.
As fourth, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll swip those. Thank you.
I think Yosh had Payface as number 2. Thanks.
Yeah, I
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Respect. With that being said, Warhawks on paper, when I look at their players, I would probably say, they're either like number 1 or number 2 in terms of people that they have in their roster. As for activity, I did notice they changed in terms of activity within the last couple of weeks. They've been way more active. And they're looking very strong, very solid. Things that I thought were weak about them in terms of how they were playing was leadership. I think it's getting a lot better now. Gift has definitely been leading much better than I expected. And then on top of that, I think that with Legacy's return to USL, it's going to definitely change things. I think that he would probably be one of their best players alongside Ernie and Kaga, and obviously Gift if Kaga shows, of course. But yeah, I do kind of expect big things from Legacy, especially since I've seen him play so far. Absolutely amazing, and it's kind of crazy considering the fact that he hasn't been here for so long. But with that being said, it could definitely go either way, where they are placed in either third position or second position. I do see a potential split between us and them. I do see that in them, and when we're SBing, some days they're just beating us, and vice versa. So obviously they have it in them, right? And I think that throughout the season, if they click even better, anything is possible for them as well.
I think if it's a head to head and it's the starting roster and they're playing to win, Warhawks is gonna beat Pay Pigs. I see. I think the good thing about this lineup compared to some of the other lineups is everybody's job on this squad. Staley and Fairfax are your medics. You've got Kaga, you've got Legacy, you've got Soul, you've got Tactical, you've got Gift, and then you've got one more, which depends on who you want to use there. Mecca said earlier, Mosh. I think Mosh is actually probably one of the weaker people on this lineup. I love Mosh, but I think it speaks to the strength of the lineup generally. When Blitz is on, he's played a number of SBs, but he's probably the most inactive of these guys. But when Blitz is on, that's the team. Blitz is absolutely fantastic. And Blitz and Legacy playing at the same time. I was playing with him in one of the SBs a couple weeks ago, and I looked around. And I was like, "Is this 2004? Like, what is going on?" It's it's all the guys you've known forever. I loved it. I will say that this offseason, Kaga has stepped up. He has been very active. You mentioned earlier, I think it was Yosh, about how active is he going to be. Kaga has been very active this offseason. I do think he's going to make a lot more games than he did last season, and he's been dominant. It's been honestly a question of who's the better player on the field. Is it Ernie or is it Kaga? And I think honestly, Kaga has probably been the majority of the better play in the offseason. So I think that's an interesting one. Then you got Gift and you got Soul competing for kind of that next position along with Legacy. So you got 5 absolute killers out there to start it off with, and 2 medics that certainly know their business. So that last position is a question mark, but I think that puts them head and shoulders above many of the other squads. And I do think they're going to come together and play better and better as each week goes on. I definitely have them as my number 2. So I think that does it in terms of the squad line. Anybody have anything else they want to say about that before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I think Fax is marining this season. By the way, I think Steve and Staley are going to be the medics. It's nice to think that Kaga's going to be active, but he can't play till like after 11. So if they have any matches before 11, he's just not going to be able to play. And hoping Seoul will show, I think, is just naive to hope that Kaga and Seoul show to more than a combined like 5 games.
It's a good point.
So on paper, they're a great team, but in reality, with activity, I think Pay Pigs, if Kaga and Seoul aren't there and Blitz isn't there, why can't Pay Pigs beat them? I mean, Pay Pigs has the better leadership. There's no reason Pay Pigs can't beat them there.
Like you said, it just depends on who the 8 are, and it depends on what time the match is.
Honestly, I completely agree with Mecca on that. I mean, in terms of leadership, I think we have much better leadership. I think that Manu is arguably one of the best leaders in the game. I think that's probably going to be the biggest difference maker. It's not going to be a skill thing on this one. It's just going to be leadership.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I don't disagree.
So I'm going to go ahead and disagree a little bit here with Splittah. I like Manu, but he's just going to sit in camp. That's what they do. That's what they've always done, right? I think Gift is very, very prepared in how he's going to be able to fight that. Especially coming over from us, he kind of got a whole season of people just sitting up in static positions and you having to go break that. That's the big thing that PayPix doesn't have. They have zero experience in how to actually push the game. Like the pace of the game, they don't know how to do it. That's the one good thing about Gift and Warhawks is they actually have players over there that know how to, put the pedal to the metal, so to speak. And that's why
sorry, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. So that's why I think I know I put, Warhawks third and I put PayPigs ahead of them, but it's purely for the reason of I don't think Warhawks gets their ideal lineup. I think you end up having to play Mosh, and I love Mosh, but he's not as a good player. He's not better than Soul, right? You end up having to play his brother, which isn't, a Kaga. And I think that ends up hurting them later on down the road.
Yeah.
See, like I've been noticing their activity has been like pretty consistent. I mean, Kaga is questionable on weekends. I agree with that. I do think that Soul is also questionable, those two in particular. But I do expect the rest of them to show, especially, and maybe Blitz too, I guess, is an iffy one. But with that being said, they've been very active right now in the past week or 2 weeks straight.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, for Warhawks' case, I do think that that during playoffs that there's going to be a complete change of what we're going to see of them during the season, kind of similar to what happened with ZT, where Soul probably does not show much games during the season, but then all of a sudden will show up during the playoffs, especially with that. I see that as well as that happening to Kaga too. So we're going to basically see 2 different squads occurring during the season and playoffs.
Well, it's interesting from the panel that we currently all agree that anything to win is number 1. We currently all agree that crap shooters is number 4. But everybody else is in dispute with Warhawks and PayPigs swapping between 2 and 3, and Nexus and NYPD swapping between 5 and 6. So that's very interesting. Let's talk about do a little other predictions for this season. I want to talk about some classes specifically and some guys that you all expect to be standout players for this season. First up, let's ask the panel, who do you all think for season 23 will be the best Marine? And I will allow you to create the criteria for what you think best means. It might be most kills. It might just be the most effective, whatever you think. Who do you think is going to be the best Marine for season 23?
I just put 5 down because I don't think we need to do any more than that. But I have ESO, Tactical, SV, Colossal, Splittah in that top 5 order, and I think that's going to be the most effective Marines. I think not necessarily going to always get the most kills, but when I'm looking at the stats at the end of the year, I think they're going to be the most impressive with their assist points plus their kill points and just kind of overall game participation. I don't know if I necessarily will have them in that order, even by week 2.
Yeah, if you had to name one,
the top 5.
Who is your overall? If you had to name one of those, if you pressure on you right now, take one.
I think this is ESO's year, man. He got a new computer. He's got more than 30 FPS. He's back with the boys. I think he's going to run wild.
Yep, I was gonna say that same thing because he did get a new computer. You can see his play is a lot different than in the past, just because he's got more than 30 FPS now. That's pretty huge.
I mean, when I look at this end of the season, I'm pretty sure it's going to be practically the majority of it's going to be anything to wins people, right? So I would expect ESO and Eric, etc., to be on that list. But outside of that list, let's say I would just remove them as a whole. I would say the number one would be probably Legacy, is what I'm expecting when everything is said and done.
I'm a buck the trend a little bit here. I mean, I think anything to win is going to have the collection, but we talked about this a lot last season. How you have so many diversified killers that you don't get to see the standouts, so to speak. And I think the Mountain is going to absolutely stand out for Pay Pigs. I think he's going to slay. And so I think he had a great season last season, but he kind of tailed off towards the end of the season. I think this season he's probably going to go the whole way through. So we have 2 votes for ESO, the Mountain, and Legacy. So ESO looking like a good person to pick if UFL is working. Next, let's talk about the best special class for season 23. That's LMGs, that's AT, whatever you think, Grenadier, whatever you think. Who do you think is going to be a standout special class this season?
I don't count LMG. I'm just going to preface with that. But I think there's a couple people, and then they'll narrow down to one. I think SV if he plays demo, Ernie if he plays AT or demo, DFS demo. I think Oct gets some recognition if he's playing demo or Ripper. If Champ ever shows, he's going to be demo. MP as Ripper. But I think the standout at the end of the season is going to be SV if he plays demo every season or every game, or Ernie if he plays 18 demo if SV doesn't.
So I think both of those players cannot play a support class for their teams. I think they need to be playing Marines, and that's kind of, if they're playing support classes, it weakens their team just right off the bat. Especially from what I've been hearing, SV has to lead a lot more this season. If he's leading, everybody knows your play goes down pretty dramatically when you have to lead. That's why so many people don't like to do it. So as far as support classes go, I don't count LMG. I don't count AT as a support class. Those are combat classes to me. So with that, I think it's gonna end up having to be one of the guys that is gonna play these classes consistently, and it's probably gonna be like Septicemia or Octavian. Like Septicemia is probably gonna play Ripper every game, and Oc's probably gonna try and play demo.
I honestly think it would be Champion if he was to play this season. He's by far the best when it comes to that sport class. As for who it is right now, that's a question mark, I guess. Oct would be number one. I mean, he plays demo pretty much every game, right? Number two would be Ernie. Although I did notice Ernie doing a lot of changing up. I do kind of expect him to play some sort of special class this season. Because that team definitely would need somebody to do something like that. I mean, obviously there's Kaga, but like let's not include LMG, right? It would have to be who else, right? It would be Ernie, I would imagine. That would be either playing Ripper or some sort of support class, I would imagine.
Yeah, I see I think those are all good names to throw out. Oct is definitely one that I could see stepping up this season for sure. And if Champion is playing, I think he's probably the runaway with it. But I also see Kaga LMG. I think he's a super underrated LMG in general. I mean, if you can underrate him, he's pretty stout in the SBs right now. And if he plays LMG, I definitely think he's gonna do some work on that front. But I think kind of a general view that SV, if he put, well, I don't know that SV can play that role. Kind of what Yosh was saying. They really need him to see the whole field, and it's tough to see the field when you're demo. So yeah, I'd probably lean towards Oct if I had to vote for one. Let's move ahead towards Medic. Who do you see as the best Medic for season 23?
I mean, I don't think this is going to be any surprise, but Iron is my number one spot. I did have some other people in here though. I want to mention I think Havoc, if he plays med all season, he's been creeping towards that elite status again. Sav is always going to be good, and then I had Stavudine and Aerith, but I think Iron's probably going to win it again. He's just the best medic in the game.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's Iron. Like that's not even pretty much a question. The big thing is he finally going to be able to get MVP this season? Right. Most of the time, it's traditionally went to Marines, but I think it's time for a change, and I'm calling it now. Iron MVP this season.
I think Iron's not only the best medic, but probably probably the best player that I've seen in the last multiple seasons now. But with that being said, yeah, Havoc's the clear second. Havoc's betting skills. I mean, when I've been playing with Havoc, it's been. I've not played with a better medic ever. I mean, since like SOE days, basically. So playing with him is like absolutely amazing. He's absolutely hard to kill. Probably has the best aim or shooting as a medic. And I think that if he does show for the season, then we're going to see him as either number 1 or number 2. He'll definitely be competing with him.
That was going to be my yeah, the one that breaks the cycle on this. I know everybody thinks that Iron is a great medic. Don't get me wrong, but I think Havoc played a fantastic second half of last season, and I really want to see him get his day in the sun. And I think that this season looks really good for him to do that, especially if he brings medic consistency to that squad. Him and Manu, that would be absolutely what that squad needs. So I'm going to go with a vote for Havoc, but it sounds like the majority of the panel agrees that Iron is probably going to have it again this year, and maybe some loftier goals for his season. Let's do a category that is kind of that maybe have a little bit more discussion on, which is Cave Beast. Who is our dark horse for season 23? Who do the stats suggest won't be necessarily the greatest player on the field, but you think this is their breakout year?
Yeah. Whoops. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think this is going to be a contentious race this season. We kind of change how we vote for the dark horse Cave Beast every season. I think we kind of settled now on the best player on a bad squad that maybe you didn't expect to do so well. So what I have is Fresh District because he just came back. He's going to be in a bad squad. Chica again. I know she won it last season, but if she has another outstanding med season. And then I have 2 newcomers, SNTR, which Yosh mentioned earlier. I haven't seen him play in too many SBs, but I know in pub that guy was really good at keeping me alive. So I think he has a bright future if he can translate that into SBs. And then my boy Doomsday Bruin. If they let him play at all, he's played forever. If they let him play at all and he can knock off the rust, and if he can show, I think he can be one of the better players for NYPD.
Who is that guy, Mecca?
It's Fry from Hardcorps back in the day.
Okay. So yeah, Mecca kind of stole it from who. If I have to pick one person this season, it's probably going to be SNTR. Guy is pretty good in pub. I think for being the first season in USL, I think he does pretty well this season, especially for Bone and those guys. Hopefully, they let him medic and everything will be okay from there. If I had to choose a 2 and 3, one would be Romulocks here. Our boy, it's time, Rom. I expect big things from you this season. UFL, I got you. All right? Just like I was pumping up Danny, it's your turn to be pumped up, sir.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Go ahead,
And
Split.
then
Oh, no, go ahead.
the last one I got is from my team, Stoink. I think he plays a bigger role than what people are going to see this season. We reached out to just a little bit of insight on my team. We reached out to some people and they told us they didn't want to play with us this season. There's a lot of people who reached out to try and bring another Marine onto our roster, and they chose to go other places. Stoink has been a guy that's been with us for a season now, and he's going to come in and fill that pistol role that we don't have anymore. That guy that comes in is just reliable, good, that we can slot him in, and he just comes in and slays out.
I have it as two players, namely both on the same squad, Nexus, Bowen and Boza. I feel like Bowen is a player that's probably kind of like pretty much very slept on. In terms of skill, I would definitely say he's really good. Similarly to that, I would say Boza also. He's kind of rusty right now, but I do expect big things from him. This is probably going to be, I mean, on this squad, I would imagine that he's probably going to be number 1 or number 2 in terms of kills. And because of that, I mean, I also think that Bowen being the captain and leader, he's probably going to have like the biggest role in that. With that being said, yeah, I would say it's either going to come down to between Bowen and Boza.
I largely agree with the panel on a lot of these, except by Mecca's criteria, I wouldn't include anybody from anything to win. But if we're just looking at players that would do more than you expect, I think. Go ahead.
Could I add one thing?
Yeah.
Would I be able to include crap shooters in this? Because
you name it, man. If it's a player that would do something you don't expect, name them.
If we include crap shooters, I also expect that Brillhart be kind of like a breakout killer that nobody will kind of like see. But it's going to be coming down to Saab, but then obviously Brill. But yeah, he's another player that I felt like kind of got slept on for quite some seasons. But now he's on a squad where he's not only going to be starting, but he's going to play kind of like a major role that I kind of expect big things from him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I saw for Tyson or Mercy. I think he could be actually a really important player for anything to win. And kind of, he's in a clutch position for that squad. If you guys don't have a couple people show up or even just one, I think he kind of slots in very nicely and he's going to do, I think, good things for your squad. I agree with what everybody's saying about SNTR. He has really surprised me in those SBs. And so he might be the guy that's bringing Nexus with him. Suicidal Noob is another one I would throw out there. I really do think he has a high potential in terms of ability, especially with his roster. Again, if kind of like SNTR, if he's the one going out there and putting in the performance in, he's hoping the rest of them follow suit. I agree with what Mecca said that District could end up being very dominant this season. And I'm not sure that's really a cave beast necessarily. I think people are expecting him to do well, but he might end up doing better than you even think he would. He shows up against big teams often, and if we were able to coalesce something behind him, he might lead the charge. So, and then I agree with what you're saying about Bowen. I hadn't added him on the list, but Bowen is a lot better than people give him credit for, particularly in a one-on-one. Putting the pieces together, if he's not the focus and he just gets to Marine, I think he could do very well, and he could end up putting some big numbers up as well this season. So that's a bunch of names thrown out there. It sounds like SNTR might be kind of the group agreement on a possible dark horse, so we'll put him down. Let's talk really quickly about the opening round of Week 1. We have 4 games for Week 1. Let's start with the 8:45. We're talking KYPD or NYPD versus anything to win. It seems like a foregone conclusion, but does anybody have a wild take on this one?
No, I think especially because it's DC. Yeah, I think it's an ATW win. I think we should focus our time on Warhawks versus crap shooters.
Yeah, I agree. Anything to win takes this. We'll go ahead and move on. Rough starting game for KYPD. 9:30 p.m. We go to Pay Pigs versus Nexus. Go ahead, Mecca.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of a foregone conclusion as well. I think Nexus will keep it close. They're going to be, do that sneaky. We'll keep it close in 15, play nice and slow, ambush the South Rocks because it looks like it is confirmed it's EC now. So maybe do some sneaky North plays. But then, Pay Pigs are going to get a couple kills, open up a battle, and then they're going to be able to push their base and kind of see where you guys come out. And then usually when that happens after, 15, 20-minute mark, it kind of expands from there. So I see Pay Pigs winning this by, 50, 45, 50, somewhere in there. It'll be, 10 to 20 kill game at 15, and then they'll open it up in the last 10, 15 minutes.
Yosh?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I have, about 50 here. I expect Pay Pigs to kind of you know, struggle maybe a little bit in the first half and then just start running them over.
Yeah, I don't expect this to be close at all. I think that we're probably going to win by 50 plus or 60 even. Why? It's not because their team lacks skill. It's just, again, activity. I think that they'll get a lot better as the season goes on. But currently, right now, as is, I don't see how it could be less than 50 even.
I don't disagree, particularly with the inactivity, and with the lack of a known starting roster necessarily, and lack of roles. I think we have some issues to work out on Nexus that we're going to try to work out, hoping for better weeks to come. But I don't think week one is necessarily where it's going to come. So I do see PayPigs taking this one. 10-15, we have Warhawks v Nexus. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead and skip that one as well. I think we all know Warhawks is going to take that. Anybody wild on that one either?
No, I just wanted to say it's not a great start to the season for Nexus having to play those two back to back, but we can move on.
Yep. Let's go to the interesting one, as Mecca says. 11 p.m. Warhawks versus Crapshooters. The first test. I think it's interesting in terms of the way we power rank these squads earlier. It looks like the 3 versus the 4, essentially. Either way you cut it for most people. What do you guys think?
I think that Warhawks does eventually win this, but I'm also not going to be totally shocked if it's close or CS upsets them. I think it's all going to come down to lineup, like we've been hammering all this entire episode. If Warhawk shows a weaker lineup and CS shows their best lineup, it's going to be a lot closer than people think, especially with EC. You know, Pister's going to be very, very slow, very, very campy on this map. And then if you have Oct as your demo, and then you have, Sabo, and if you get Pandy, not playoff Pandy, I think that this could be a pretty interesting match, and I think it can surprise some people. But I do think Warhawks will end up winning it.
Yeah, I think this is a
Yeah.
Warhawks victory. This is a later game. I'm seeing it's 11 o'clock, so that means Kaga's showing up, right? So if Kaga's there, that's a pretty big deal for Warhawks. I like a lot of the guys on Crapshooters. If they take this game slow, and they have to really, really slow the pace down, set up some ambushes. I've seen some very, very interesting ambushes that can be set up on CV. If Crimson Valley is the map that we're playing on, then this game could be a lot closer than people kind of expect. But if
The site says EC right now.
it says what?
It says EC right now.
It says EC. We're playing on EC. I thought it was Crimson Valley.
I think Crimson Valley's at the end. Is what they were going to go with. So
yeah, I think it's
going to be EC as of now.
It was talked about week 1. I think it was also talked about week 7 or 8. So yeah, it sounds like EC is going to be week 1.
Oh, if it's EC on week, that's unfortunate. All right, well, disregard that. This is a Warhawks victory then. They're too seasoned on this map. Pistons team doesn't have enough time to gel on EC, and I think that's a big part of what it's going to come down to. Like, this is a familiar map to Gift and those guys, and I think they win this game by about 30.
Yeah, I actually 100% agree with Yosh. 30 was exactly the number that I was thinking about as well. Mainly because there's a possibility that first 15 minutes is going to be slow. Whereas then I do expect Pister to do a lot of camping in the beginning. And then once they lose the battle or 2 battles in, they're going to be kind of like pushing to try to get back. And that's where they're going to kind of like tumble down to getting that 30-point deficit is what I'm expecting here. But with that being said, yeah, Warhawks with Kaga, I expect them to honestly run over them. Obviously, Pister is going to be setting some plays, and I do expect Sab to come in handy if he shows. But with the talent that Warhawks has, I don't expect this to be that close.
You guys copied off my paper, I'm sure, because 30 is exactly the number I had. I have it written down as 50-20 as a final score. And the reason I have that is because I think I agree with what you guys saying, that Pister tries to keep it slow, but I just don't think he can do it. I just don't think he can escape Warhawks once they know where they are the first time and then it's just a Terminator from then on. Especially with the starting lineup and if Warhawks gets the 8 they want, if Blitz shows up, it could be worse than 50-20. And yeah, I definitely see this as a Warhawks win. I think Warhawks start the season 2-0, and start their season strong. So,
I think you guys are underrating crapshooters, by the way. I'm gonna call it now. I
okay.
think it's gonna be less than 30.
Underrated?
What do you have
Less
the
than
final
30.
score being on this?
I have Warhawks. What did I write down? Oh yeah, Warhawks 42, crapshooters 38.
Okay, real close,
All
4-point
right.
game. Well, we'll see. That's what we play the games for, right? We learned that very much last season.
Mecca, are you expecting Kaga to be there or not be there?
I don't think he'll be there. I think 11's too early. He usually only plays 11:45 games. Obviously, if he shows up, that kind of makes my prediction. I think it'd go up to 15-20. But if he doesn't show, I think it's going to be a close game.
All right. Well, does anybody else have any comments in preparation and anticipation of season 23? No? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that'll do it for the season 23 preview show. You could play Infantry for free. It's available right now on Steam under Free Infantry, or visit freeinfantry.com. If you're interested in league play, maybe you're not currently involved and wondering how to do that, please visit uslzone.com. You can sign up there, make a forum post, say hello. Still plenty of time to get involved, particularly if you're a returning player. Please check out all our videos on the Infantry Online YouTube page to watch games and clips created by our community for our community. I'd like to thank my co-hosts for the show today. That'd be Mecca, Yosh, and Splittah. We also want to thank executive producer, Military Police. I appreciate what you do, buddy. This has been Romulocks, and you've been listening to the USL Season 23 preview show. See you in the drop.